There's an old hotel on the edge of town that no one talks about anymore. The Glass Haven Hotel had once been a jewel of luxury, boasting ornate architecture and dazzling mirrors in every hallway. But 50 years ago, the doors closed after a guest disappeared without a trace. People whispered about the Mirror Room, a suite on the top floor where something unspeakable had happened. The few who ventured into the abandoned building claimed the mirrors showed things that shouldn't exist. For Danny, an amateur urban explorer and thrill seeker, the rumors were irresistible. He had heard the stories, reflections that moved on their own, whispers echoing from the glass, and shadows trapped within. Armed with a camera and flashlight, he decided to spend one night in the infamous Mirror Room, hoping to catch something paranormal on tape. The lobby was eerily pristine despite years of abandonment. Dust coated the marble floors and cobwebs draped across the chandeliers, but the gilded mirrors lining the walls gleamed as if freshly polished. Danny felt a chill as he passed them. His reflection seemed slightly off. The expressions were a second too slow. The eyes lingered on him longer than they should. He shook it off as nerves and ascended the grand staircase. The Mirror Room was at the end of a narrow hallway on the top floor. The brass plaque on the door was tarnished but still readable, Suite 703. Taking a deep breath, Danny pushed the door open. The room was extravagant, even in decay. An enormous canopy bed sat in the center, its curtains tattered and stained. The walls were lined with mirrors, each a different shape and size, reflecting the room from countless angles. Danny set up his camera on a tripod, positioning it to capture the entire room. The mirrors gleamed in the flashlight's beam, their reflections twisting the light into eerie patterns. Sitting on the bed, he began recording, narrating his exploration. For the first hour, nothing happened. Danny spoke into the camera about the room's history, the disappearance, and the rumors of the mirrors. But as the clock struck midnight, the temperature plummeted. His breath fogged the air, and the flashlight flickered. A faint tapping sound echoed through the room like fingernails on glass. He froze, scanning the mirrors. At first, they reflected only his own pale, wide-eyed face. Then he noticed it, movement in the far corner of one mirror. Something shifted, just out of frame. Danny whipped his flashlight toward the corner, but nothing was there. He turned back to the mirror, and his blood ran cold. His reflection was still staring at the corner, even though he had turned away. "Hello?" he called, his voice shaking. The reflection turned its head to face him, its mouth twisting into a slow, unnatural grin. The mirrors began to ripple, as though the glass were water. Shapes moved within them, shadowy figures with elongated limbs and empty, hollow eyes. The tapping grew louder, more frantic, as if something was trying to break through. Danny stumbled back, grabbing his camera, but when he looked at the screen, the footage showed nothing. The room in the recording was empty, even though he could feel the oppressive presence surrounding him. "Stop messing with me," he yelled, his voice cracking. He threw the flashlight beam across the room, and his heart nearly stopped. One of the shadowy figures was no longer in the mirror. It stood behind him. Danny turned slowly, trembling. The figure was tall and gaunt, its body shifting unnaturally, as if it were struggling to maintain its shape. Its face was featureless, except for a wide, lipless grin that stretched impossibly far. The mirrors began to crack, one by one, spiderwebbing as the tapping turned to deafening pounding. The figure's long, claw-like hand reached for him, but when Danny tried to run, he slammed into the mirrored wall. Every direction led to another mirror, another reflection, and another version of himself. Some terrified, others smiling in ways that weren't his own. The last thing Danny saw was his reflection's hand reaching out of the glass, grabbing him by the throat. The mirror shattered, and everything went black. The next morning, the police found Danny's camera in Suite 703. The footage showed the empty room, the mirrors unbroken, and the faint sound of tapping. But at the very end of the recording, his reflection leaned into the frame, grinning. "Come join us," it whispered.